Homemaking encompasses so many different things. While there is always a kitchen to clean, always food to cook, probably always a house to clean, there is so many other things that are involved in homemaking as well, and a big part of that is raising our son, raising children. That is something that seems to be forgotten. There's a lot of thought of women staying at home and raising children and thinking that they have all this time to cook and clean, and surely what else could they be doing? But the full-time job is really raising little ones, taking up your time, showing them life, and creating sort of the best learning environment for them to play. And so that is what I spent most of my day doing, actually, taking this little guy around. I do try to go outside every single day and spend some outdoor time. We are fortunate to live half a kilometer away from the river, and so we have almost no excuse to go out into the beautiful outdoors and explore. But homemaking also includes some fun projects, and I think it's good to include little bits like this or it can really get mundane. This week on my to-do list, I wanted to tackle some of our houseplants. It's about the time to start transplanting them into bigger pots if you feel like there's a plant that could benefit from having a little bit more soil space to grow. But there's also some of them that have little babies that I thought would be nice to turn into little baby plants that I could potentially give away or position in other places in our house. In the corner here we've got a bonsai tree. That'll just stay as it is. There was a little olive plant that seems to not have made it the move from my in-laws' place to ours very well. So I'm going to get rid of that and use this pot for something else. Over here we've got a pothos, which is growing super well, although it could use a new pot since I'm putting it up here and it's probably a bit squashed to the roof. I also would like to give it some water. That's another thing, keeping up with these plants, feeling their soil and watering where necessary. We've got this rubber plant in our room that seems to be doing well. It could just benefit from a little bit of water. And then I recently got this plant from my mum, and it definitely needs to be transplanted into a bigger pot now that it's settled in our house. This snake plant has made a few babies. I'd like to transplant this into a bigger pot and then separate some of these babies. Now our aloe plant I thought would do well in this pot, but it is not loving it at all. I'd like to give it something with a little bit of support on the sides. And then we have this wild little palm tree, which we have been keeping alive. It's my husband's favorite, not really mine, but I'm trying to make it work. And so it can benefit from just a top up of some soil and a little bit of water. Now this little tree we got from my parents, and it is a baby from its original plant that's at their house, and I've been trying to give it some new life, and I think it could benefit from a bigger pot hopefully and will produce a little bit better. I don't think this pot has any drainage holes, and that may be its problem. I can't really give it a good soak. So I'm going to work on my plants here and give them all a little bit of new life as a part of my homemaking tasks for this week. I just got back from a grocery shopping trip and I thought it was worthwhile this time to split my bill in two. I did one of just our staples every week. That way I can get a rough idea for how much we're spending on groceries if I'm just getting the things I really need. And when I say really need, I just mean our basic fruits and vegetables, maybe some cheese and milk, and yogurt and cereal. Plain, basic grocery bill. And then I did a second grocery bill with the extra add-ons. Now I'm going to share the numbers with you and I think you'll find them very interesting. I've got 2 receipts here. Now the list of essentials, things I would buy about every week, included some oranges for $6.14, a kiwi bag for half the price for $3.40, some mandarins for $7.49, some yams for $5.35, some danju pears for $5.34, 2 squash for $8.46, broccoli for $3.90, Italian parsley for $2.79, some gala apples for $3.84, zucchini for $5.47, creamy mushrooms for $3.80, curly leaf kale for $2.89, and other kale for $2.49, some red peppers for $4.14, a mixed container of super greens for $6.99, rice vinegar for $5.99, bananas for $6.45, 4-liter whole milk jug, $16.99, a large tub of plain yogurt, about 1.5 kilos, for $14.99, and some cereal, like a large bag of almost like a brand kind of cereal, for $12.99. All of that together, so a staple every week, roughly, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, and cereal, milk, and yogurt, came to about $129. Then my second receipt, these are things that I would consider add-on. It would vary every week. And I could probably have put the rice vinegar also in that category. But anyway, and on that list I had 3 cans of tomatoes for $3.99 each. I bought some of these kid puree pouches for $2.49 a piece. Some quick oats for $6.99. Tahini for $11.99. Goat feta for $9.99. Ice cream for $13.49. Coffee beans for $15.99, some cream cheese for $5.69, arborio rice for $15.99, and 2 bags of chips for $4.49 a piece. Altogether, that came to $108.77. So if I add my 2 receipts together, we are at $237.77. About a $200 grocery bill. I should add that we buy our meat in bulk, and I think I can make a rough sum here of how much we pay in total, and it lasts us about 4 to 5 months. And so if I take that price and divide it by 4 or 5, it equals roughly this amount of red meat. And now and then I'll buy chicken or pork, just some other kind of meat that we can have other than beef. And I would consider that extra again in my grocery bill, not something that I'm usually buying into. You'll also not see eggs here. Eggs we buy locally at our farm to stomp here, and that's about $6 a dozen. And then I also didn't buy any cheese this time except for feta cheese, but if I were to buy cheese, usually I'm paying $15 for 500 grams. So let's add that in here and say that I did buy that this week also. I think that's just interesting to know. I like to make sums like this and keep a tally on how things are going up or down. Not that it really matters. We live, there's nothing we can do. Although it is nice to see how much we're spending on things and maybe try to source things a little cheaper. And I'm curious to know if you can buy this amount of food for the same price, but I guess even if you could, my difference is it quality food that you can trust, perhaps local, organic, that isn't genetically modified or sprayed with a bunch of chemicals that you really don't want to eat. I wanted to pop in here and say that there is a lot of things that you don't see in this grocery haul, and that is because we are learning to make a lot of things ourselves. For example, we make our own sourdough bread. I am making our own granolas, salad dressings, or rather buying things in bulk and then making things with them at home instead of buying them already packaged. We are getting into some really nice warm weather. It's really starting to feel like spring here in our Pacific Northwest. Although I know not to be tricked by this. Usually we get another cold snap at the end of February, beginning of March. So not to get too excited, but it is feeling like gardening season. But I know well enough to just spend right now planning, and that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to search through my old seed box and see what I have left over. I know kind of what I need to be starting right about now, and so I should see if I have the seeds. It probably would have been wise to do this a couple of months ago already, but I did not have the capacity for that at that time, so now is best. I'm gonna have a sift through here and see if I've got things like onion seeds to start and other kind of cold crops that would easily transplant into our beds once we get our new soil all heaped up onto the beds. So I found the onions that we want to plant right away, at least to start winter sowing. They'll take a long time to become established, so I want to go ahead and start those, and I have lots of varieties because we are trying to grow storage onions that will last a little while. So I've got a whole bunch here. I'm really pleased about that. And then I also found my cover crops. In here I have buckwheat and flax. These are good to grow while we're waiting for summer to come because that is just extra nutrients for our soil. But more than that, I actually don't want to lay out new soil on these beds and then have them sit bare for 2-3 months. Basically that soil will just be exposed to the sun and the elements, and water will just drain right through them, and well, it's not ideal. So it's best if we can cover that soil, and it is good to do it with something like buckwheat or flax. There's lots of other cover crops that you can also do. They grow relatively fast, and then we are going to weed whack them down before they flower. I don't actually want the seed to be in my bed and become a pest or a weed of some sorts, but I do want that nutritious food for the soil, one, and I don't want my soil sitting bare and empty, and nothing here can grow as quickly or take up enough room fast enough to cover the beds. Well, thank you for joining me as I delve into this life of homemaking and share a little bit with you. I hope that you have found some inspiration, and if you like content like this, we'd love if you would stick around and catch some of our upcoming content. Have a nice day.